All right, that's it. Good evening. Welcome to the August 1st Clifton Park Town Board meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Teresa, if you call the roll.
Councilwoman Flood. Here. Councilwoman Sanders. Here. Councilman Morelli.
Here.
Councilwoman Wallowitz. Here. Supervisor Barrett.
Here. Want to entertain a motion to approve town board meeting minutes of July 18th. Discussion?
Councilwoman Flood.
Yes.
Councilman Morelli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz. Here. I'm sorry. How about we start this again?
Vacation.
Well, I don't think anybody would get too upset.
How about Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sanders.
Yes.
Councilman Morelli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett.
Yes, mine's easy.
Yeah.
Communications and announcements, a couple of quick things. First, we're entering the second session of our Learn to Swim lessons. So I want to thank the staff for pulling together. We have just enough instructors to pull this off this year. We've had some additional training sessions, both in Clifton Park and other parts of the county, as part of a new initiative to get as many lifeguards certified and out working in our communities as possible. So a lot of youngsters in Clifton Park benefit from this program, and I want to thank the staff for pulling together and doing a nice job with our swim lessons again this year. Recently, I was chairman of a project up at the county that focused on studying the infrastructure of the county and its resiliency, challenges, and opportunities in the future. As part of that process, the county partnered with SEDC. We had many stakeholders that were part of this process, representing organizations you may have heard of, like NYSEG and National Grid, Verizon, large players in the utility and communications space, as well as people that are leaders of public sector infrastructure entities and other folks. And it was a great process. I think everybody learned a great deal through this project. We have a report that's available on the Saratoga County website. It's right on the home page with a link if you're interested in this topic. So I'd invite you to read the report. It is the beginning of the process. We'll be holding future meetings on a regular basis to ensure that communication and planning efforts are properly organized and developed over time. And there's a lot of challenges in the energy space in particular with the New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. And we're not sure exactly how that looks yet, but there will certainly be some challenges with regard to energy availability and pricing. But there's many factors regarding infrastructure and making sure that we're properly planning for the future. And that's what this process is all about. So I was proud to chair that effort. And like I said, if you're interested in that topic, take a read on the document that we prepared. Also want to congratulate the Not So Common players. They finished a successful run here on the Common. Hopefully, many of you had the opportunity to see the play. Nice work if you can get it. Several evenings, and they always do a nice job. And it's a nice setting, and we congratulate them on another good run. Also want to congratulate the Clifton Park Sportsman Club on a good run, 75th anniversary, and they just had a celebration on Saturday, which I was able to attend, and congratulate everybody in person. So 75 years, I don't think the club's been any stronger than it is now. I know there's still a significant waiting list for membership, and they continue to do a great job, and they partner with the town on some good programs too, so congratulations. Any other communications and announcements?
Yes, I do. On Tuesday, August 2nd, starting at 5 o'clock until around 8 o'clock, the town of Clifton Park is celebrating its 18th annual National Night Out. And this is an opportunity for us and the community to celebrate our first responders, our law enforcement, EMS professionals, and our firefighters primarily. It's a great time. We have a lot of community partners who come to this event, food vendors, a lot of demonstrations from our law enforcement, and our highway department participates too. So they bring a couple of their vehicles over for the kids to enjoy. So it really is a great family event. And it's open to everyone. Again, it is this Tuesday, August 2nd, and it begins at 5 o'clock right out here on the Clifton Common. And we hope everyone can come. Our Parks and Rec staff has really been doing a great job putting this together, and it's going to be a real fun time. So I hope you can make it.
Anyone else? Okay. We have a public hearing on the agenda tonight. Teresa, if you would read the legal notice as it appeared in the Gazette.
Park County of Saratoga, State of New York, notice of public hearing to solicit public input regarding deer hunting by bow in town parks and preserves. Please take notice that the town board of the town of Clifton Park will conduct a public hearing on August 1st, 2022 at 7:05 p.m. in the Wood Memorial Meeting Room in the town office building located at 1 Town Hall Plaza, town of Clifton Park, County of Saratoga, County of State of New York, to solicit public input on a proposal to amend Town Code Chapter 152 through 153 to provide for a deer management program through a controlled deer hunt by bow only at the Bishop Ferry Preserve, Garnsey Park, Veterans Park, and Wadsfield Nature Preserve during deer hunting season. Copies of the proposed local law are posted on the cliftonpark.org website and are available for review in the town clerk's office during normal business hours. And that was in the July 21st Gazette.
Very good. So everybody that would like to speak will have that opportunity. All I ask is that you raise your hand, state your name and address for the record when you get up here to the podium, and also please keep it to 5 minutes or less to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. All right. Do you have any
Yes, I have
anything you'd like to state before we get started?
Sure. So before we begin the presentation by the Deer Management Committee, I would like to take a moment to thank members of the committee and go over the process that has led us to tonight's public hearing. First of all, I'd like to thank the community, specifically the members of the Deer Management Committee and the employees of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for their many, many, many months of meetings, hard work, and diligence in proposing a wildlife management program that I believe will be beneficial to the town of Clifton Park. I would also like to acknowledge Town Attorney Tom McCarthy for his legal advice during the process and his work on helping us write the proposed addition to the town code. As a result, and through the help of other town department heads, we are now in a position to address the growing problem of deer management in our community. In the fall of 2021, following a unanimous vote by the town board establishing the committee began the process of exploring wildlife management in the town of Clifton Park. we learned a great deal about a growing problem with deer in our community that perhaps is unknown to the general public. In the nearly year and a half that I've been on the town board, I've increasingly been contacted by residents with complaints about deer damaging their gardens, their landscaping, and homes. There has been an uptick in deer and car collisions, which place both person and property at a severe risk for injury. Our town highway department recovers approximately 2 to 3 deer per week, and this does not take into account the injured and dead deer that are removed from state and county roads within the town boundaries. And of course, during the fall months, accidents only increase. This costs the taxpayers of Clifton Park valuable time, money, and resources that could be spent by our departments performing other town duties. Finally, numerous communities across New York State, from upstate New York down into the southern tier and as far east as Long Island, have run similar programs successfully for decades. There are even some already right here in the capital region. I truly believe that the proposed management plan is a great opportunity for the town of Clifton Park to help address our growing deer management problem while promoting shared access and greater utilization of our town's 4 largest parks. I'd now like to turn it over to Mr. Timothy Palmer, a member of our Deer Management Committee, to further explain our findings and the benefits of this program.
Thanks, Amy. Can everybody hear me? Yes. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and tell you about what we've come up with after months of work, our solution for deer management in Clifton Park. Under Councilwoman Flood's leadership, a group of community-minded, conservation-minded, experienced bow hunters came together this winter and worked really diligently to come up with what we believe to be a comprehensive, safe plan for deer management. Besides the members on this committee, their acumen at bow hunting, we had a lot of special skills on the committee that came in very helpful. The first one was experience with other municipalities' successful deer management programs. We had members that had experience with other successful deer management programs. The second one I'd like to mention is experience with maps and GPS. That came in very handy when we were able to get down to the fine details of how we were going to manage this program. I'd like to talk a little bit about the role of DEC. When we first came together, the team wanted to have DEC representation, get some DEC feedback, and I was shocked to see how easy it was to get a DEC state biologist to come, and he came to almost every meeting that we had, hours of his time. The DEC actually, on their website, will, I'll say, promote this as a service. They're very interested in coupling with municipalities such as ourselves for help with deer management. We also had the benefit of a couple successful municipalities, their deer management programs, successful programs that are on like military bases. And I would like to mention and thank our town attorney. He spent many, many hours with us, guiding us on some of the legal areas. And we did spend some time with the town departments when we had specific questions or issues. We ran it by department heads and got some good feedback. So what are the goals of the management program? Really, we want to control the overpopulation of deer by giving our residents, Clifton Park residents, access to a shared resource, our parks, to engage in a limited bow hunt over 3 weeks, a structured and controlled bow hunt over 3 weeks. Why do we need a deer management plan? Deer cost the town resources, time, and money. Vehicular collisions are a big area. Anecdotally, the town board, the highway department picks up 2 to 3 deer a week. That's just on town roads, not within county or state highways. Deer cause accidents. I personally know a member that's in this room that is less than 2 weeks old of hitting deer. Of course, we've got issues with vegetation. Homeowners constantly see landscaping issues with farm crops, forest vegetation. We're hoping that we're able to get somewhat of a reduction in deer tick transmission. As Councilwoman Flood mentioned, we've seen an increase, the board's seen an increase in deer-related complaints. And again, the program we put together is ethical, it's legal, and we believe very safe. Other problems, urban development, deforestation, and farm destruction. This picture is actually private residence, landscaping damage on arborvitaes. This happens to be on Gannett Road. So here's the plan. 25 Clifton Park residents that are licensed in New York State, licensed bow hunters, can show residency, can enter in and get picked through a lottery system. Included are the 4 largest parks: Veterans Memorial, Fisher's Ferry, Waskill, and Garnsey. And each hunter would be given 50 acres in the park. So Vets Memorial would be 3. Fisher's Ferry, of course, is a large park, 14. Plots, Gawaz 5, and Garnsey 3. And after they get selected for the lottery, they'll be randomly assigned one of those section parcels. This is a bow hunting only proposition. This is not a firearm proposition. And I want to say it includes both vertical bows and crossbows. And it's 3 weeks. At the end of the week-long duck hunting down at Fisher's Ferry, this program will start and run about 3 weeks, backing up to the New York State wonderful reindeer season. People would have, if they want to enter into the lottery system, show proper credentials to the town clerk, which includes proof of residency and proof that they are licensed bow hunters in New York State. Those people that are selected through the random, through the lottery, will need to pass the proficiency test. We have been able to secure the facility of the Pitman Park Sportsman's Club to perform that proficiency test. And at that time, the committee will come together with those people and we'll have a hunter safety meeting. Since we anticipate there will be parking at these parks before daylight and probably after dark, we will give the license plates of the qualified 25 people to town security, so there's not an issue with parking. Anything outside of the rules that we've set, we'll come back to the Deer Management Committee and we'll hold a hearing, and there will be possibility of, limiting or revoking the permit that we can. Safety always. So in New York State, the last 3 years, 0 bow hunting incidences. The 5-year average of 0.2. You will not find in Google anywhere, you will not find anything related, an injury related to the discharge of a bow. Any injury for bow hunting is typically related to poor tree stand management. False. Every licensed bow hunter's got to take a New York State hunter safety course. They also have to take a bow hunter safety course. By the way, when I took mine, I had to pass a proficiency test for that also. We'll have a separate town proficiency test. Hunter safety meeting. Safety booklet, you have to be a town resident. Bow hunters are wildlife conservationists by nature. We have two very successful programs in town, if you think about it, that mix hunting at the same time with other uses of a park. The first is our duck hunting program, which runs for a week, that involves firearms, which of course we're just about in. And also the state park at Usher's Road. So that state park, I think it's 130 acres, 125. For years, it's open to hunting during hunting season. So you can have hikers in there, you can have bow hunters, you can have rifle hunters, muzzleloader hunters. No issue, no incidences. Each person is going to get their own parcel. It's mapped out. It has the GPS coordinates already mapped. They're going to know their 50-acre parcel that they are able to utilize. And again, we'll promote the DEC laws. So here's an example of Veterans Memorial Park. There's 3 plots here. And these are basically 50-acre plots, just so you can see how we laid it out. And the coordinates, whoever gets awarded, let's say VM1, will get the coordinates to VM1, and they can utilize that on their hunting app to know that they're on their plot. Gloucester has 5, laid out like this, sort of north, south, east, west. Garnsey has 3, and I think there's 14 in British Ferry. British Ferry is 900 acres. So in summary, deer management is a logical solution to the overpopulation and rapid development of our town. It's the preferred method as far as DEC is concerned. What we've presented is legal, it's ethical, and it's safe.
Excuse me.
It is a demonstration of the town's support of sportsmen and women, agriculture, farming, for shared open spaces, environmental conservation, and safety. Bow hunters, sportsmen in general, contribute an enormous amount of money to conservation efforts. And they're out in our community assisting with all kinds of things surrounding the outdoors and conservation. So in closing, we urge the town to pass this resolution supporting a structured and controlled deer hunt for 3 weeks with a bow in our 4 largest parks to start to reduce the number of deer killed inhumanely by vehicles. This is a small, what we consider a small pilot program, and we intend to reassess it at the end of the program. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so like I said, if you could just raise your hand, and I'll ask you to state your name and address for the record when you get up here, and please keep it 5 minutes or less. Yes, ma'am? You have your hand up first.
The map of the district.
Could you come up to
I'm
the
sorry.
podium and state your name and address, please? Sure. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lena Gora.
Hi.
I live at 376 Riverview Road in Oxford.
Mhm.
The map of Vehicular Ferry, I have 2 questions. Does it include the towpath side of Ferry Drive? Does the hunting section include west of Ferry Drive, where the towpath goes up to the falls? Or is it just the nature preserve? Do we know? It does not include. Okay. Okay. Thank you. My second question is, are the public parks, will they continue to be open during the 3-week hunting, 22-day hunting season?
Is that
Are
the,
people still going to be walking in the nature preserve?
Yes.
is that the,
It'll be shared,
It'll be shared?
Yep.
So
Yep,
the
just like it
nature
is down
pres-
at Usher's Road, same
Okay.
thing, yep.
So the nature preserve affects me specifically because my property backs up to that land. And 1 week a year with duck hunting is problematic. We have 4 little grandchildren who are out in the yard with the swing set and other things. All it takes is one mistake. And I know we're showing a whole lot of safety records, but I don't want to be the first one on that. And I don't want anybody else in here to be the first one. I think that what we haven't considered is 3 weeks, and if I read it correctly, 22 days prior to the second Saturday in November are the 3 weeks we're talking about. So think about the time of year, the foliage, the people who come to see the foliage, our orchards, the school trips, the businesses that rely on that kind of commerce and economic influx into our town. Fisher Ferry is a very, very unique place. Schools from all over go there 3 weeks prior to Thanksgiving when there are bow hunters. I know a bow hunter. My nephew's a bow hunter. I'm not saying they're negligent or not careful. I'm saying that there's going to be so many more people in these parks and areas that time of year because of the special gift we have of foliage and animals. And I think 3 weeks is a lot, in my opinion. And I also think this is a terrible idea.
Good evening. My name is Thomas DeAmbro. I live at 370 Riverview Road and appreciate the opportunity to address this issue. Personally, I'm not against hunting, but location is everything. And I wish to also address hunting down in the Bishop Ferry Nature Preserve. My family and I own most of the property, not all of it, north and west of Ferry Drive on the Mohawk River side of Riverview Road. This includes our horse farm on Riverview Road, Craiglands Farm adjacent to Lot 7 on the river. This land just mentioned does not abut the nature preserve, but we also own 2 properties at 344 and 350 Riverview Road that do abut the preserve. We bought much of the land northwest of Ferry Drive years ago in order to preserve it from development and keep the area consistent with the rural and farming nature of it always been. At our farm, we board, rehabilitate, and would train for competition our own and other clients' horses, many that may be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. When we moved to the Bishop Ferry area 25 years ago, the area was in decline and decay. We and other neighbors have made substantial investments in improving these properties, including the house and barn at 18 Ferry Drive we also own on the corner of Ferry Drive and Riverview Road, and one of the oldest homes still standing in Clifton Park. The Bishop Ferry area has become a bright spot for the town. Our experience with the ongoing duck hunting shows that the town does not have the means nor the will to protect landowners adjacent to the nature preserve or even enforce their rules, which tells me that if an expansion of hunting is approved down there, it will only make it less safe for us and our children who live in this area. Although our primary residence at 370 Riverview Road and our farm at 394 Riverview Road do not abut the nature preserve, we also have to deal with duck hunters every year who leave the preserve side of Ferry Drive and hunt along the river below our properties. Many times in the past, I have felt in danger as many hunters also drink alcohol and indiscriminately fire in any direction, even towards our home. Town security has no law enforcement power and cannot detain or arrest lawbreakers. State police are slow to come, and often it is clear that no one has educated them on what the rules are for hunting that way. People walk, jog, or bike these trails along the river all the time, either alone or with their dogs. Do we have to wait till someone gets seriously injured before you believe what we're telling you? Culling the deer herd is a front for bow and arrow hobbyists. If you approve this plan, I can only imagine dealing with an injured deer fleeing the area along the river to one of our properties, causing harm or damage, or ending up out on the road and causing an accident. The nature preserve is supposed to be just that, a preserve. It doesn't mean most of the time, but not all the time. Nothing is keeping this hunting group from finding other areas to do what you want. Just please stay away from our nature preserve. I strongly urge that this expansion of hunting in the Vehicular Preserve not be approved. Thank you.
And the gentleman in the back there. Oh, no, you, come on up there. And the gentleman in the back, yeah. How you doing?
How you doing, sir?
Good.
Good evening.
You can adjust that microphone if need be.
Little short,
Well, yeah. Just trying to be helpful.
Thank you. Big fan, by the way. My name is Rosemary Scolomero, and I live at 28 Cicada Drive, so it's not like a deer's gonna end up on my property, but if it does, I'm gonna call it dinner. Here's my thing, all right, it's, I've got a couple of questions, really 3 questions. The cost benefit to this, is the revenue from the permits gonna offset the cost of enforcement? And I know that was a good presentation, and it sort of did answer some questions, but that's a big one. And when we talk about enforcement, that's question number 2. How are we going to enforce it when town security, and they're great people, I've met them, but they can't force anything? Okay, so if I want to go down there with a bow and arrow, what are they gonna do then? A few weeks ago, and I read this on one of the Facebook pages, some young boys were down there throwing fireworks at animals. And when someone confronted them, the people were threatened with bodily harm, they were spat at, and town security couldn't do anything. Sheriff's department was too busy to get down there, and basically these kids just walked. They just laughed and said, hey, our parents don't care what we do. How do you enforce it when someone's walking around with bows and arrows? Okay, and my last question, how far will one of those arrows go if it doesn't hit anything? It doesn't hit a deer, it doesn't hit a tree. How far will they go and how much force will they have? Will they end up in someone's yard? That's just safety, that's all. Other than that, cool with my name, beep. Take you away. And that's it, thank you.
Thank you. What is the proposed cost of the permit?
There is no.
Okay.
Yep, there's no.
So there is no proposed cost to a permit. As far as, I'm not, up to speed on bows, more so on the firearms. So as far as the length, that an arrow can travel, what's the average length?
A crossbow goes over 100 yards.
Crossbow goes 100 yards?
Over 100 yards.
Over 100?
I was told by Amy Flood it only goes 25 yards.
No way.
No, I said
The
you're.
average shot.
That's
20
what
yards.
That's the average shot of taking
20
a
yards
deer.
from your
That's not a
target. So you're very
crossbow.
close.
And if you hit a,
Above it?
and if you hit a deer with a crossbow, most likely 99% is gonna go through. Because it's very powerful.
I'm sorry, Joe, did you,
One of the things that we talked about when we were working on this is that most of the hunting that will be done by bow hunters is from tree stands. I think from an elevated stance, this comment about an arrow going 100 yards is if it's on a level plane,
Okay.
flat plane.
Oh.
If you're from an elevated tree stand, and you're shooting a deer on the ground, it's never gonna go that far. It would be much less than that. It's most likely to go, it does go through.
Could you stand up, please? You can't hear you.
So basically what he's saying is the general length, if you were standing on the ground shooting at something, the arrow would go approximately 100 yards, maybe more, right? But if you're shooting from a tree stand downward, obviously the angle of the shot would cut down on the amount of the length that the arrow would travel. Okay, so that was.
In a tree stand. The reason that wasn't done was because there are certain handicapped hunters that we wanted to be able to hunt out of the ground. And to be able to operate out of the ground.
So there's no requirement that somebody be in a tree stand, but that is the distinction between the two positions, one standing on the ground shooting forward, the other from a tree stand. And the difference in the possible length that an arrow could travel. Does that answer your question, Mike?
Another way to think about it,
Okay.
Another way to think about it, New York State the law says I can discharge my vertical bow within 150 feet of an occupied residence that I don't own. Outside 150 feet, I can discharge my bow. I discharge my bow in my lawn, and I'm 150 feet away from all my neighbors, and that's how I practice. A crossbow is 250 feet. A rifle is 500.
So the crossbow is 250 yards? Feet, okay, thank you. Yes? Oh, okay. And as far as the, okay, as far as how far you have to be from a structure. Right. Yes, sir, how are you?
Good evening, my name is Adam Catalano, and my wife and daughter and I operate a small farm at 35 Guernsey Road. As you can imagine, I'm here tonight to express my concerns about hunting in Guernsey Park specifically. We share a property border with the park for about 1,800 feet, and about 1,200 feet of that is within line of sight of the trail. That's our property right there. So this whole GP3 would be along our border. I'm sure if you've walked those park trails, you would have heard my dogs encouraging you to stay on the trail and also to put your dog back on the leash. Why do I have these dogs? It's to protect my animals from dogs, both domestic and wild. Yes, in February 2019, we had a leashless park visitor and escape its owner, killed 3 of our chickens in our flock. This was not the only trespassing incident we've had from Guernsey Park. In early March of 2020, my daughter went up to our upper field at dusk to observe the moon and came across a trespasser who quickly scooted away. And later in that year, also this was after dark, so dusk to dawn rule was in effect. After that, in November of 2020, a woman and her dog ventured 400 feet into our property. I was processing turkeys that day, and she got a sight. And luckily, my dogs were on the other side of the property, or there would have been a more, incident would have escalated quickly, let's say. All 3 of these incidents have an email chain with the town regarding them. What was the town response? Basically nothing. So let me put a few signs up on the first incident. The second incident, my email was not responded to. And the third incident, I had some discussions with Dan at Building and Grounds about putting a fencing up, and that was rejected. They did put a posted sign, or they put a town border, a boundary sign, park boundary sign, right next to my posted no trespassing sign. That's helpful. So my question is this: why would we give visitors additional privileges in this park that would give them the actual reason to leave the park trails and follow a deer, an injured deer, until it eventually drops? So I can assure you of 2 things. Deer do not drop immediately when struck with an arrow. The general hunting protocol is to sit tight for 20 to 40 minutes and to not push them too far before beginning your tracking them. And the second is that as good as the Shen education system is, deer do not read posted signs. If a struck deer wanders onto my property, that hunter is not given permission to track it. My dog will certainly let them know that they are not welcome and that this is now their harvest. And I would hate to have to report another incident to the town. This sums up my first concern: park visitors trespassing on my property and the lack of the town's culpability in response. My second concern is that deer are a vital part of our ecosystem. When I moved to the property, the former owner, when he heard that I was bringing animals, let me know that the coyote population is very high. And my neighbors assured me that the coyotes in the area are very bold. They have taken 5 out of this guy's 6 geese when I bought the property from him, brazenly walking out to take the geese from him. Research shows with an adequate food supply, coyotes can live peaceably among farms. Primarily, they eat small game like rabbit. The deer can feed a pack for quite a while. I've experienced this firsthand, as not 50 yards from my pig enclosure, they dismantled the deer without bothering any of my other flocks or herds. In the past 2 years, the coyote pressure has been much lighter than the first few on the farm. I attribute this both to my addition of the livestock guardian dogs, as well as the rising deer population.
Less than 1 minute, sir.
Thank you. So, if you would like to reduce the deer population eating your gardens and your flower beds, be prepared to keep an eye on your dogs and cats. My final question is this: did the committee adequately researched this with the DEC. My very best friend in New York is the deer and bear management, Jeremy Hurst. On the DEC, he's in charge of deer and bear management for the state. And when I called him regarding this, I asked him about it, and his response was not, "Oh, yes, we were consulted on the proposal." It was, "Yeah, we got word of this." So I don't know who the biologist was. Maybe Jeremy did not consult with this biologist. I conclude by thanking the committee for your detailed proposal and safety. However, considering the fact that deer, unleashed dogs, and even distracted humans ignore posted signs and park rules, I feel that hunting in Ganji Park is unfounded. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me. My name is Eve Boklinski. My husband Charles Petrasky and I own a 6-acre forested property at 1067 Boston Lake Road. That's 146A and very close to Ashdown Road. I'm here to speak on behalf of the proposed hunting plan for our town. I am a stepmother and mother to 5 boys ranging ages 4 to 14. And we are a very active family. We enjoy the outdoors, including fishing, gardening, hiking, and swimming. We as a family frequent the 4 parks proposed for the plan. And I listed the parks below, you know what they are. Other than being a mother, one of the many titles I hold is that I am a licensed New York State forager. I am licensed through Cornell University in partnership with Mushroom Mountain. I forage in the wild for mushrooms and berries. I also admin or moderate or own several local gardening, outdoor living, foraging, and plant social media groups locally in our area that encompass thousands of people. My involvement with these online groups as well as my foraging experience has given me foresight as well as experience and knowledge about deer in our area. I'm not a scientist. I have not been studying deer exclusively. I am not a wild management expert by any means, but I have experience in these areas. Collectively, amongst my gardening people in our area, we all face deer problems, from having crops eaten and shrubbery damage, hundreds of dollars of investments gone, and sometimes all in one night. I have a forested garden. I have all kinds of natural remedies that I'm currently using and experimenting with to help keep my vegetable gardens and flower beds safe. As much as they are a garden nuisance, I still believe they are beautiful creatures, and I often see them in my forested travels. For my foraging, I have been studying these local parks. I have been studying microclimates and terrains, as well as topography. With studying potential foraging areas comes the natural observation of other wildlife like deer. In case you didn't know, there's a lot of deer in our local forests. And let me repeat that. There's a lot of deer in our local forests. I'm familiar with deer trails and their patterns. I'm familiar with how they nest. I'm familiar with their migrations and how they travel. My property is essentially very close to Veterans Park. In between my property and Barnsley Park is a lot of untouched forested and farmland. In fact, the deer run across my street in front of my house on a nightly basis. I can easily say I see about 300 out of 365 days a year, I see deer. Everywhere. We have a problem with deer in our area. I moved here in the spring of 2018, and the first year I observed 4 dead deer. Relatively close to my house, my Newman State Highway, it's fast. The following year was 9, last year it was 7, and this year I'm up to 9 already, and the calendar year is not over. These are not deer that are starving. They're on the side of the road. These deer have been hit by cars. 1 month after moving here, early one morning, I went out to get the newspaper. There was a pregnant deer that was at the bottom of my driveway, and she was still warm, as in really hot. And I could tell she was obviously just hit. I called the state police. They came over, tagged the deer, and then my 8-year-old stepson and I dragged the deer up my 2-acre driveway. My mother and I gutted the deer. We buried the fawn. I'm totally serious. And I drove the deer to a butcher in northern Saratoga County for processing. We were able to salvage about 70% of the meat.
Less than 1 minute, ma'am.
The past winter, my mother was driving down Ashdown Road when she witnessed a car hit a deer. The car did not stop and kept going. My mother stopped to try to prevent other people from running over the deer. Other people kept driving and the deer got tossed around the road. It was a horrific experience for a 75-year-old woman to bear. For other vehicles, think of all the vehicles that hit the car. Can you imagine the car damages? I was driving past the Elks Club this past spring. I had to stop for a pregnant deer which was hit and had a broken leg. I got the deer off the road. She was limping, listed on the side of the grass, and I called the sheriff to see if there's any way we could rescue her. She was visibly pregnant. The sheriff said there was nothing he could do and that he was not going to shoot her because she was off the road. Being a mother myself and an 8-year-old, I felt terrible, nothing I could do. Now, statistics. 1.5 million deer car accidents happen each year in the U.S., over $1 billion in costs, 200 fatalities, and 10,000 people injured by deer.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Oh, there's so much more I want to say. If anyone wants to read my notes, you can have my phone. Obviously, I'm pro deer hunting. We have a problem. Let's do something instead of doing nothing.
Hi, my name is Eva Bowman. I live at 12 Hiawatha Drive. I want to thank the committee and the council for all their hard work. The committee for the time invested, the efforts, the thoughts, the months, and the council for sponsoring such an effort. We appreciate it, we do. I know you've considered alternatives to bow hunting for decreasing the deer population. I know you've concluded that the problem is urgent. I'm not sure we all are privy to decisions about it being urgent, so consider that if you would. I assume you gave ample time to studying the costs, the benefits of each alternative. Thank you. Thank you for that. It's difficult to believe that of all the alternatives, the winner is your proposal to allow bow hunting in city parks, where bow hunting can maim and kill people. I oppose the proposed deer hunt pilot program town law. I said you've counted the costs. I know you have. I know the alternatives to bow hunting have costs. The fertility control program comes to mind. Don't you hate this money? It was fun at first, right? So I'll just tip it up and tip me up. I know that other bow hunting alternatives have costs. A fertility control program comes to mind. While this, I thought at first, would generate revenue. We find out tonight it won't even generate revenue. It comes with enforcement costs and administrative costs and no permit fees. This came as a surprise and an unwelcome surprise. We say you consider the cost. Have you considered these costs that I'm about to list? These costs of allowing bow hunting, despite a beautifully written in words regulation, these costs arise nonetheless. Nonetheless, the cost to your reputation and the cost to the image of Clifton Park and our quality of life when you face TV cameras and say, this has been a tragic accident. This is the first time. That's an interesting phrase, the first time. This is the first time a child has been injured or killed in this program. We had signs out for the public's protection. We understand now that the signs were taken, were missing, or had been vandalized and couldn't be read. We promise it will never happen again. You would have promised it wouldn't happen the first time. And that phrase, the first time, that's a very interesting phrase. Have you counted this cost? That citizens everywhere are far more likely to take their grievances to social media and and their videos to social media than their grievances to you, especially after hearing tonight that the town's response is so often absent. So we're ready to take our grievances and our videos to social media and TV reporters. Are there no lawbreakers in Clifton Park? I know that the presence of lawbreakers is not a reason not to have a regulation. But this is a proposed town law that comes with lethal force. The expansion of lethal force. That's a different kind of lawbreaker we have to counter, enforce against. Apparently not. How many times will you have to answer the public's complaints about lawbreakers and their videos about lawbreakers? How many people will put a bow in their hands of their little son who did not pass the proficiency test, and we'll see a video of the little boy maimed or killed by the first little boy? Have you counted the cost of social media that says a visit to Clifton Park might get you impaled by an arrow? That's what might be our town's image. In closing, please do not vote yes on this proposed town law because it is a pilot program. History is replete with things that began as pilot programs and then were later adopted and were never a good idea in the first place. At your own places of work, you have no programs that began and went well for 6 weeks or 6 months, and now you wish you'd never begun them. This is the world of unintended consequences.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Please, we oppose, most of us here oppose this proposed town law. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe Stockbridge. Live at 10 Holder Drive, Baltimore, New York. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to talk. I have to address some of the misinformation that's been coming out tonight. In regards to the toolkit that DEC or we have for managing deer management within the town of Clifton Park. The toolkit is very limited. You've mentioned basically sex changes for does. That has not worked statewide. I believe they've attempted it down in Hastings on the Hudson in a 1 acre enclosure gated community. They've spent about $200,000 per year trying that, and it's still not being able to control deer population. What the science has told us, and after the pandemic, I looked to the science, and the science in deer management is relatively defined. Bow hunting is a tool that DEC recommends. That if you look at the research that Mississippi State, Purdue, Indiana, Cornell, any of the places that are looking at deer management, urban deer management, they will tell you that bow hunting is the preferred method in urban deer management. In addition, we also need to look at some of the restrictions within DEC rules as well as the legislation. There is a limitation as to how close hunters can be to trails and so forth within the parks. That's in the local law, and that's to put up their standards. So it would be atypical for them to be hunting towards the trails. They would more likely be hunting into the wood plots where they would be seeing a lot more deer. So it's from the standpoint of bow hunting is extremely safe. In New York State, in the nation, it's extremely safe. Can it happen that there's an accident? Certainly. I can never tell you that there could never be an accident. We're talking about 25 individuals that we're going to be screening. We're going to be giving them a safety orientation. They're going to have to be proficient. And very honestly, to go through all of that, they're going to want to be a good hunter because they're going to want to take a deer. They're not going to want to shoot a person or a dog or anything else. So from a pragmatic standpoint, the science says that deer hunting is a management tool that we need. We are very overpopulated in this area. I have experience in the town of Irondequoit that has been running a management program in their parks for almost 20 years. jointly, the parks are still open. I walk through them when they're there. I see the deer stands when they're up. I see the deer hunters when they're in there. We coexist. It's possible to do this. So from a pragmatic standpoint, again, you just need to be have a little bit of faith in this as a pilot project. I would hope that after a year's experience, we can come back here and say that it did help reduce some of the population. With only 25 hunters and a 10% success rate, you're not going to be reducing a lot of deer anyway. But we're hoping that this will be an example of how we can do it successfully. And lastly, in closing, if we do follow the science, I think the science is pretty defined that this can be done safely. Thank you.
As far as that's a good point. What is the expected number of deer that might be taken in it annually?
Well, there is no expectation by the DCC. They said in such a small pilot program, they would hope a few would be taken the first year. So they can't put a number on it because it's not an exact science.
If we look at statewide numbers, it's less than 10% of bow hunters.
Less than
10%.
Less than 10% of bow hunters are successful in taking a deer during hunting season.
Does that mean most of them miss?
Never get a shot.
That's encouraging.
With bow hunting, you have to be extremely close.
Because the deer runs and
You're not
can't
talking
get back
about
on.
200-yard shot.
Retrieve it.
You're talking about 20-yard shot.
So I don't record it.
And if you're at 20 yards with a bow, efficiency-wise, you can make a good shot. Most bow hunters pass more deer than they'll ever take. Most good bow hunters don't take a risky shot through brush. Don't take a risky shot where they don't know where the area behind the animal is.
So in Saratoga County, in 2020, there was 2,735 deer recorded by bow hunters. Those are the ones that were reported. In the United States, in 2021, 4.58 million bow hunters and 600,000 bow hunters in New York State. So there's been 0 incidents of bow problems in the last 4 years, 3 years, so out of 600,000 bow hunters.
So if there's 25 hunters and less than 10% of the bow hunters are successful, we're looking at maybe 2 deer being taken through the program. Right, so I guess that would be the
2 to 3
expectation.
that wouldn't be killed or slaughtered by a car.
Well, I'm not arguing the point. I'm just saying, you know, if you take the information Joe's providing and the number of hunters, it comes out to about 2.
Bill, that's why we're calling this a pilot.
Yeah.
If it was successful, you felt that it was beneficial, you look at other parts of the town. But as a pilot start, we thought it was appropriate to concentrate on these 4 entities. They presented clear, definable areas that were able to be effectively sectioned up and managed.
The DEC recommended we start very small too. They recommended 1 per 50 acres. Other places go down to 1 per 25 acres. They put more people in a smaller space, but we wanted to be even safer, so we went with the recommendation to do 1 per 50.
Well, it's probably preferable to look at a larger area due to the fact that, you know, we look at these parks and the amount of time and effort and money that's been invested in installing trails and bridges throughout these parks, and the maintenance that's involved. It's obviously inviting for people to visit the parks. So I think it would be preferable, if there is going to be a program, that it be a larger area for hunting. These are not wooded areas with maybe very rough trails winding through heavily wooded areas. You know, this is these parks are far different from that. So I think we should take that into account. Yes, sir.
My name is Paul Feldman. I live at 26 Berkshire Drive in Sherwood Forest, and my yard also butts up to the Glasgow. When my wife told me about this, I was kind of in disbelief. And one of the things I'm not hearing tonight, where is the study that shows how many people are in these parks on a daily basis? to think that we may be going on a hike in Richards Ferry or Glassville, knowing that there's bow hunters around, I mean, it's bizarre that this is even being discussed. I mean, with the density we have here, with the number, I've not heard one thing about how many people are in these parks. I'm hoping that this council has been in these parks and has observed how many people go in. And to think that you're turning hunters loose with, I also have grandchildren, which somebody else said, who I have neighbors with young children who are down in that Gloucester all the time. It's mind-boggling to me that we're having this discussion, to be honest with you. And there's so many, I respect what you're saying. I work for the government. One of the biggest weaknesses in government is the assumption of policymakers that everybody will follow the rules and do what they're told. That's why every government program there is a lot of fraud, because people don't. So we assume that there's only going to be the number of people with bows that you give the permission to is so naive, it's beyond comprehension. To assume everybody's going to follow the rules? Are we really serious here? I mean, we're talking about kids, and the woman put it very good. You really want to be up there saying, well, we had a meeting where a lot of people showed their opposition to this and pointed out the risk, but yes, we're sorry this child was killed. Is there going to be insurance required by these bow hunters? Are they going to hold the name the town? I would ask this of the town attorney. How much do you think the lawsuit will be if somebody gets hit by a bow and killed? Who pays for that? Are you going to require the hunters to have insurance and name the town is additionally covered?
Well, if it's a town-sanctioned activity, obviously, if there were something to occur, then yeah, they could come back to the town.
Yeah, so you're talking millions of dollars for a human life.
Well, I don't know what, we
So
can talk about
the hunters
various
wouldn't have to have
scenarios,
insurance?
but was there any discussion of insurance as far as the people that are doing the hunting?
No, environmental conservation law says that lands are dedicated to the preserve, are declared to be put to their highest and best and most important use, and to be held for one of the following purposes, and fishing is listed in Part D, so.
The other thing that's kind of lacking here, and I appreciate the work that was done, but I haven't really heard hard numbers. There's a lot of anecdotal talk. How many road accidents were there in Clifton Park because of the deer? I would think we would at least have that number.
Dan, do you remember how many for highway?
No, I don't. John and I have worked on scene numbers before.
Was there even a single death? Was there a single serious injury? I mean, we don't have any of that information, but we're talking about putting kids' lives at risk to allow bow hunters?
Mr. Nope. John, you want to talk about environmental impact?
From the environmental impact standpoint, New York State has declared that hunting is a right. They allow municipalities to put controls over using their local laws on home rule, whether they'll allow hunting or not. So from the standpoint of New York State, they have a preemptive doctrine that has already said that it's allowable use. That's why the Ushers Road State Forest has hunting on it now currently. That's from the environmental standpoint. From the deer standpoint with vehicles, one of the challenges is we don't get the state and county data mailed directly to us. We can consult with the sheriffs and state police. We can see with our eyes. There was an accident last week on Coolidge Road, just south of Stewart's, with the whole front end of an SUV smashed in at 8:45 in the morning. Vehicle on the side of the road, state trooper there, deer lying in the road. We do know Lap Road is probably one of the, from a town road standpoint, has the most deer strikes. And part of that is most likely with the 1,200 acres in Stony Creek Reservoir. That is protected from any hunting or fishing whatsoever. So when you talk about a protected preserve, that is a sanctuary, if you will, for those populations. And you do see around the Stony Creek Reservoir, that's probably where you see the highest vehicle to deer incidents throughout the year.
So for me, just in summation, if you looking at risk reward, I mean, I don't know if we're comparing apples to apples when you're talking about bow hunting and injuries, because are you comparing the spaces and the density of where this is going to be compared to national averages? I mean, you can't compare these small areas with like, you know, Yellowstone National Park or something and say there's only X number of accidents. I mean, I would bet if you get a risk assessor in here, they would say there's probably a way more likelihood of an accident occurring because of the density in these places, especially not even knowing how many people are in there. So it seems we've kind of jumped the gun here without weighing risk reward. We're gonna risk all this stuff so that, what did you say, 3 deers can be taken? I sympathize with the woman who's got the deer problem, but I think I disagree with the deer as a whole town problem. Yes, there's certain areas that are affected by it, and I'm not saying we should ignore it. I just don't think the reward is worth the risk we're talking about.
Ann Connolly, 12 Alberton, Clifton Park. I'm not against hunters, nor am I disputing there isn't a deer population problem in Clifton Park. I have concerns on safety and liability. Many landowners whose property borders the parks that hunting will occur were never notified or consulted that a deer management hunting program was seriously considered. This isn't fair to them. A crossbow is a powerful weapon. In some communities where deer management is utilized, it is not allowed. Once a hunter shoots a deer with an arrow, he waits 30 minutes to an hour for it to bleed out and collapse. He then starts to track the deer. There is no guarantee the hunter hits a vital organ and the deer will die. Even deer that will die can travel 100 yards before they fall. Using tracking dogs will cause noise to nearby neighbors with their barking. It is estimated by the Maine Bow Hunter Alliance 50% of animals shot with crossbows are wounded but not killed. Another study revealed out of 22 deer shot by an arrow, 11 was wounded but not recovered. Has it been considered the reaction Clifton Park residents will have witnessing a wounded or dying deer? What about small children who might view this? Will there be multiple signs posted in the park? Hunting is taking place? Are the hunters required to have $1 million liability policy? Many municipalities require it. Who will take responsibility if a wounded deer runs in the road and causes an accident as the hunter's tracking it? Is the hunter going to take responsibility? Will the hunter drag the deer back in the woods to field dress it if it runs in public view? In case you don't know what field dressing is, after they kill the deer, they got to take the guts out. It'll spoil the meat. Hunters cannot trespass on private property to retrieve the deer without the landowner's permission. If the landowner says no, you have a conflict, and one of the parties has a weapon. What happens if a resident finds a wounded deer on their property? Hunters field dress, remove the guts after recovering the deer. Are you going to let them leave a pile of guts there, or do they have to take it out? Deer organs left will attract coyotes and vultures. You just created a new food source for wild animals. Other communities have deer management programs require the hunter to conceal the dead deer and its organs that were field dressed from public view. I did not see that in the proposal. Residents of Clifton Park aren't used to seeing this. Will the lottery drawing be made public with the names of the lucky hunters? The program is for Clifton Park hunters only. How will it be handled when a hunter hangs a deer in his backyard to season it, and his neighbor calls town hall and complains it's offensive and scaring his children? You have residents against this. How will it be handled when a hunter walks out of the woods with a deer and residents are taping them with their phone that they're going to put on their Facebook page because they don't agree with it? If someone gets hurt, is the deer management committee taking responsibility along with the town? Is the town insured for this? Many municipalities similar to Clifton Park have deer management programs that are handled in a safe manner and avoid conflict. They hire professional hunters to come in at night, shoot the deer with a firearm using a silencer, take the deer organs, take the deer away to have it butchered. Then the town has a lottery for residents interested in venison. The public does not witness any offensive acts that go along with hunting, and they are insured. The public is totally safe. They are at no risk whatsoever. The professionals handle it all. And at one time, USDA had funds for communities to hire these professionals and help the town pay for it. Communities like Clifton Park, which is considered a sensitive community, use professionals to handle the situation. not let hunters go out, get themselves in a situation, create a conflict with a neighbor. There's landowners here, they don't want you on their property. So if that deer goes on that property, you got a problem. I just hope if the town, if you wanna have the deer solution taken care of, fine, Clifton Park, do it. But let's hire the professionals to do it the right way and keep peace in our community and not let anyone get hurt. Not, just take that right off the table, because that's all I've been hearing all night, is concerns for safety. The folks that their property goes up to the parks, they have nothing to worry about. If these professionals are hunting at night, you have no worry about people using the parks during the day. But nobody mentioned that tonight, there are alternatives. Trying to do the fertilizer, yeah, that is a thing. Hire professionals, they're all over the place. They're called sharpshooters or professionals. And municipalities like Clifton Park, that's what they use. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lucas Waring. I live on 9 Whispering Hills Drive in Country Road South. As a 17-year-old outdoorsman, it's become increasingly hard to find areas to hunt. I've had multiple doors shut in my face by landowners due to me being too young and not trusted with a bow or firearm around people's houses. I've been hunting my entire life. I've harvested multiple deer safely and humanely. With these areas being open to permitted bow hunting, it will be much easier to participate in hunting and conservation in our area. Due to urbanization, deer have been overflowing our neighborhoods and parks. With overpopulation, these animals will free roam around our properties, eating our gardens and plants. This plan will help me provide for my family as well as help our community stay safe and clean. I've hunted multiple times behind in Usher's Road State Forest. I've never had a problem with anyone back there. In fact, people ask me how I've done back there. I've had very friendly conversations with bikers, walkers, landowners, as well as people walking their dog. I've never had a problem with anyone. They're very friendly. They actually encourage me to hunt back there because of how many deer have eaten their plants, gardens, and crops behind their houses. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, yeah, just hold up, we'll get to everybody, yeah.
Hello, my name is Agatha D'Ambra with 7 Sandwich Edge. I have a few questions and concerns. Some of them have already been answered, so forgive me if I'm being a little redundant here, because I've heard this obviously before. And so, first and foremost, who exactly is this deer committee? When and how was it formed? What qualifications are required for a position within this committee? Why does an unelected committee of self-appointed experts feel that they have the authority to make changes to our current laws already in place? Because obviously this would be violating many of the laws that are already in place for the preserves and parks. Why does this committee feel that these changes specifically are necessary? Do you have a study from the DEC with any kind of data to support the claims that this is necessary? A statewide statement doesn't necessarily affect Clifton Park. New York is a large state. Anecdotal cases of people complaining that their hostas were eaten does not constitute a problem large enough for this kind of action where laws will be changed, residents of this town will be affected, liability will take place. And by the way, I would like to address the misinformation that was here tonight in the presentation because arborvitae are listed as deer resistant.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true. They lie all the time.
That's not true. The gardening.
I googled it outside that they're listed as deer resistant. So while it may be commendable for the self-appointed deer committee to offer their expertise and knowledge with regards to the management of deer, has any of the other impacts been considered? Has anyone considered the potential impact on the owners of property adjacent to any of the land mentioned? What about the families or those that utilize our parks and preserve for other sports, recreations, and hobbies? Has there been any impact? Has there been any consideration of the impact this will have besides just the impact on the deer population specifically? If this is truly about management and not about trophy hunting, why bow hunting specifically? Is bow hunting truly the most efficient and effective way to manage a deer population? If this is truly about management and not about hunting, then I trust that everyone on the Deer Committee will excuse themselves from participating in the lottery to avoid a potential conflict of interest or appearance of impropriety. Now I'd like to speak about the nature preserve specifically. Although there is a whole other set of issues to get into on another day, it is relevant for this discussion. I live adjacent to and own a business located along the nature preserve. I constantly see violations of the laws that are currently in place. The nature preserve already has laws in place against the use of motor vehicles, fireworks, off-leash dogs, littering, and yet we see those get violated quite frequently. I see people riding their four-wheelers and snowmobiles down the towpath regularly. We also frequently see bonfires on the beach and people fishing without a license. My point here is there is already a severe lack of enforcement and regulation within the preserve, so that begs the question, how will this be enforced? The Deer Committee is going to regulate themselves. Clifton Park is already having issues policing the preserve, so how will it work adding additional factors that will require additional enforcement, and at what cost to us taxpayers? Currently, our nature preserve is policed by Clifton Park Town Security, who does not have the power to actually enforce any laws. The most they are able to do is issue an appearance ticket for court, but that is only if the perpetrator is willing to cooperate with them. Otherwise, people can basically do whatever they want within the preserves and parks and walk away free of accountability. So why the preserve specifically? Are you acknowledging that the parks and preserves are the few remaining rural areas left in this town? If so, that speaks to a greater issue, which is the overdevelopment of this town, not the overpopulation of the deer within. Can I see the impact report that states the overpopulation of deer within the nature preserve is actually causing harm to the nature preserve? So far, the only reasoning I've been given is anecdotal evidence about car accidents, which texting and speeding has not been considered, so it doesn't really prove to be valid data, and people's plants getting eaten. There are many things that can be planted that deer won't eat. Maybe arborvitae isn't one of them. Google told me it was just now. But I plant several things that are deer resistant in my garden now. The point is there are preventative measures for these issues that don't involve people interfering with our ecosystems and intruding on the increasingly smaller areas left for nature to exist. Nature preserves exist to preserve nature, to promote wildlife conservation. Preserves are most often safeguarded from activities like land development, industrial use, motorized recreation, and hunting. For the record, I am not against hunting, although I believe there is an appropriate time and place for such activities to occur. I, like many people, including those who wrote the existing laws on the nature preserve, don't believe that the nature preserves and town parks located within or next to residential areas is that appropriate place. Thank you.
Is there a recommendation as far as cleaning the deer that are taken?
They have to be off 20 yards off the trail.
No, as far as cleaning the deer. At the point of it's killed and now nobody's
recommended that you take them off, but as long as it's 20 yards from the trail, same with discharge, it's easy recommended that was proper use.
That what?
That was proper use for dangerous.
All right, so I'm in the preserve. I'm one of the hunters. I take a deer, maybe runs a little bit, and falls. So it's dead. What do I do with it at that point?
Pull it away from the trail system, and then you can field dress.
Okay, so you field dress it on site.
On site.
Okay, so the remnants will remain at that site.
You'll be gone at a certain point.
But wherever it perished. Okay.
You'll be gone.
Okay, well, I just, that question came up, so I just wanted to clarify that. Young lady had her hand up in the back. How you doing?
My name is Eleanor Catalano, and I live at 35 Guernsey Road, and it is adjacent to Guernsey Park. One of the benefits is the wildlife. There's a doe who comes by occasionally. She'll wade into our ponds and remain there for a good 10 minutes, placidly eating lily pads. We almost named Be Still Farm after her. She's a lovely embodiment of Psalm 42:1. As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, my God. A mother with twins, will bring her fawns to our field, because she knows it's safe for her here. We don't bother them, and they don't bother us. It's a delight to watch the fawns grow into their gangly legs and gradually lose their spots. I won't give a presentation of facts and consequences because that's already been done. But if there's one thing I will support, it's life, whether human or animal. Growing up on a farm has given me the unique opportunity to live in community with animals, discover their habitats and personalities, and love them for it. I don't want to let the deer die if I can do something about it. I just want to ask for the lives of these beautiful creatures who evoke the thrill of a free spirit with every encounter. Thank you.
Yeah, please. Somebody wanted to,
Hi, my name is Peter Reek. I'm not a town resident currently. I grew up out on the direction roads in a very rural area. I've been a hunter education instructor for 54 years. For one thing, what everybody's forgetting is has anybody ever heard of the Pitman Robertson Act? Okay. Pitman Robertson Act was passed in, I believe it was 1932. Puts a 10% excise tax on all hunting, fishing, and archery tackle, which then goes to the federal government and is funneled back to the states to furnish hunting or park areas for hiking paths and various other recreational areas. So the hunters are actually paying for these lands, for one thing. Secondly, I've been an instructor for 54 years, as I've said. We get the incident reports from NCON. I cannot remember in the 54 years I've been teaching any incidents of anybody other than the hunter themselves being injured in archery accident, well, incidents they call them now, because they found out they didn't really accidents. The one woman said that she'd like to see the deer live. Well, if you'd like to see the deer live, you have to cull the herd. Everybody says only the strong will survive. It's not true. They all compete for the same amount of food. They all die. This was proven back in over in Bennington with the Veterans Administration home. They had a small area, and they knew the carrying capacity that they could, how many deer it would support. The deer herd got out of control. They were going to have a special hunt to cull the herd. The anti-hunting people raised a ruckus, and the hunt was canceled. 2 years later, there were no deer. Pardon?
They all starved to death.
They all starved to death.
They starved to death, they died a slow death.
And that's a much more horrible death than being shot with an arrow or a rifle. I teach, as a hunter education instructor, I teach one shot, one kill. Pardon?
Do you know the number of deer which currently exist in Clifton?
I don't know the number, no, but I've seen a lot of them.
New York State averages about 14 deer per square
What's
mile.
that got to do with how many are Clifton?
But there's
I know.
a lot of deer.
We're here to talk about Clifton.
I understand that.
I know of one incident.
okay, all right, hold on 1 second, sir. Sorry,
I know of one incident in where Stony Creek goes under the road going out of Bishop Ferry. I witnessed a car deer accident at that point. This is right next to a little village of Bishop Ferry, which is fairly, it's a fairly densely populated area. And up until recently, Albany County, Westchester County, most of Long Island, or all of Long Island, was archery only because it was considered to be much safer than rifle or shotgun. It's just recently, I think it's been about the last 5 years, I'm not certain the exact time, but I think it's about 5 years that Albany County has been opened up to rifle and shotgun. But it is still closed to rifle and shotgun around the city itself. It's only both. So, I mean, and it's, as I say, it's much more humane to kill a deer with a rifle or a shotgun or an arrow than to let it starve to death.
How many have starved?
Loads of them. I don't have any numbers, but I can tell you.
They don't publish it, that's why.
Yeah, they don't publish those numbers.
About 15 years ago.
Has anybody in here ever seen a deer that starved to death?
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
plenty of them. Walking the woods
about
15
years
years
ago,
ago, we
they
found 150 deer in the fields.
And I'm the,
Which is.
I'm the question of what do you do with the guts It is, we teach in the higher education course, you bring a plastic bag of some sort, take the guts with you. The same way with anything you bring in, like you bring in a lunch, take the bag, take the wrappings, take the soda cans, whatever.
Just don't
Take them out.
confuse the two.
Pardon?
Just don't confuse the two.
Yeah, right. But this is the things that we teach in higher education. We teach ethics as well as safety. The course I teach is mostly on firearms, but we touch on the basics of archery to make people familiar with it.
Well, I appreciate that information, thank you. How you doing?
Sorry, I don't mean to jump in. My name's Mike Camilio. I live at 12 Blueberry Lane in Cookie Park. I moved here in 2006 from the northern Syracuse area. I have firsthand been part of Verona State Park, who issues state tags, to access land, to deer hunt. Never had an incident. I've had more incidents where residents walk around with pots and pans, banging them together to scare the deer, causing havoc, having them then run across the road. Which is illegal. We've had numerous times when walkers and hikers have actually had to have the cops called on them because they're interfering with what we are legally allowed to do. I've followed the rules. We go get our permits. We talk to the DEC. I've been to Wellesley Island. I founded the state park in Wellesley Island. Never had an issue. We see walkers all the time. Walkers walk past us. Like the gentleman said who does deer hunting or the education, you want to know your target and beyond. This isn't about the town or the hunter itself. The hunters know what they're doing. They're not looking out for the walker's buyers. If they hear something in the woods rustling, walking around the trail, first of all, I'm not going to be walking or hunting anywhere close to my bike path. If I have 50 acres, I'm going to look at the topography map. I'm going to look at the acorn trees or whatever mass crop is going to be available to me in that area. And I'm going to go to that area. I'm not going to go where that path is. Deer don't want to be where your path is. They want the path of least resistance, the path of least hunter or person involvement. So they're going to go to the other end of that area. To touch on the snipers, I grew up about 15 miles from Manlius. Manlius spent in 1 year $500,000 on snipers. It's not baloney. They put piles of feed, they put feeders out, had all the deer come in, and yes, they would shoot them. They would shoot them in one night. They did it over a 1 month time frame on weekends. You don't hear about it.
No, that's not the same system I was referring to, but okay, that's fine.
But that's what, I've actually been involved with it when I grew up. So I've lived that scenario of hunters can do the same thing. And what the town is trying to do is, you all are talking about your private land. They don't have access to your land. So they're doing what they can to open up their ability to provide access to somebody like me who has 30 years practical experience of hunting. I've had my lifetime license since I was 22 years old in archery, in muzzleloader, and as a super sportsman. So I have gun privileges, muzzleloader privilege, archery privileges. I've had it for 25 years. Never had an incident other than people walking around doing what is illegal against me. So for me, it's more of, I have practical experience in certain scenarios where what this town is trying to do is just open up the land that they have available to them. I've gone door to door to many neighbors in this community and asked for privilege. Denied.
You have to buy your own land.
I can't afford the land.
But we get it.
It costs me $1,000 a year. Like if I want to buy a bow, it's $1,000. An arrow, I build my own because arrows cost $10 each. So if we can't gain access to private land, what they're trying to do, just open up the ability to curb the herd that we aren't able to curb.
It should be shared access.
It sounds like people want, like, to have their own prime hunting spot.
I don't trumping hunt. I meat hunt. I've donated, I get 5 tags a year. I can get a buck tag, I can get a doe tag, a muzzleloader tag, and then 2 antlerless tags from the state. I donate, when I tag out every year, I donate 3 of those deer to the Venison Donation Coalition. So that goes to the hunters, the people that can't. So it goes to feeding the hungry. It goes to the food bank of Albany. Time's up. Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Carl? Carl. Someone in the back has his hand up.
Good.
All right. He's rolling. I gave up his time.
Okay, so I'm Matt Timmy. I'm a long-term resident from Park U.S. Court. I'm a certified wildlife biologist and graduate in ecology. U.S. Court. Very close to Boston. Anyway, so to address some of the things that people have been saying. So it sounds like a lot of you, apparently this is deer management, but a lot of you are talking about you want land to hunt. That's the big current hunting coalition saying we want land to hunt. Now, their interest is in controlling deer. It's they want land to hunt. That didn't appear at all what the intention of it was. So if you want to hunt, you just say it. But the they tend to do it. Don't say it's for hunting. Don't say it's for deer population control. It's for hunting. And then also, the town really can't control the current enforcement of Wasco. I mean, there's 3 tree stands up in Wasco right now. I've called the town about several times. No one's taking action on it. How can you guess what it is? So if you want to open up to more hunting, they can't control the illegal hunting right now. I mean, they're going to hire a park enforcement officer to fund suspension too. There's also there's a lot of evidence of poaching back here too. I've seen piles of apples to bait here back in Wasco. And
That's from children bringing them in.
children are bringing 50 pounds of apples.
No, but there's bears there too, so the children shouldn't be in Wasco to begin with.
There's no bears in Wasco.
There are.
Okay,
There are.
yes, there
It's on
are.
Facebook.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, check like a truck.
You had me over
Okay,
here 2
okay,
years
okay,
ago.
okay.
There's bears there. Yep.
It's
Keep
2
looking.
acres. Do you know which land a black bear needs?
No, I don't study.
Yeah, like 500 acres. And then also, we haven't really, the town hasn't done any wildlife impact or any survey. We have no idea how many deer are back there, so how are we deciding to control deer population if we don't know how many are back there? The town hasn't brought any biologists to investigate it. So how are you coming up with a limit if you haven't installed any biologists? You're going up with interstate data that in Park Springs make place. It's heavily populated. There's a lot of farms. However, there is these open spaces that much deer. Also, there's been a lot of talk about the Stony Preserve acting as that's mainly the problem that Michael mentioned, but I haven't already mentioned that's where the most accents are. But that's not enough population control, so why are we opening up these other areas that haven't really been issues? If the issues involved with the lands of the Stony Preserve and what's there. That's all I.
Let's have them play back to this.
Now we'll get you up here.
Carl Springle, Appleton Road, and I represent the deer in this town. If any deer you have problems with them, send them over by Appleton Road. We appreciate it. And we watch them every night, and we enjoy them. The only thing I really want to seriously mention is that if you get ahead with this program or whatever, you beef up public safety, because like some people have said here, and we've seen it, where people during hunting season and the state approved program on the for the duck season, they just lift up the tape that you put down and just walk in, and that's a dangerous situation for the hunters and for the people doing that, and it's not right. So I think as you go ahead with the program, you consider more beefing up the public safety where it might be needed. So that's all.
Anyone else at this point that would like to use? Oh, yes, sir.
I'm not a town resident, but I am a hunter ed instructor for the DEC, certified in gun and bow. My name's Richard Wilcox. I'm not a resident, but I am a hunter ed instructor, and I'm here on behalf of hunting. New York State right now has, there was a woman who mentioned something earlier about hiring people to come in and eliminate the deer. New York State has a feral pig program right now. It's illegal to shoot a feral pig in New York State. It has to be done to hire people to come in and do it. The state pays $10,000 per pig. So that's something to think about when you're hiring people to come in and reduce population. It has to do with the cost of hiring somebody to come in and shoot deer.
Okay, let the gentleman.
I'm explaining that it's not cheap to hire hunters.
It's a whole different process.
It's a whole process.
It is.
No,
It is.
There's companies out there that do this.
But not cheap.
East Hampton now
Not
does it,
cheap.
and you used it as an example in the Gazette.
All right, let the gentleman finish his point, please.
No, not cheaply. That's what I'm saying. It's an expensive proposition to hire people to come in and eliminate the deer. I think this is a good program, and I think it would work. DEC pushes it. DEC wants the communities to open up lands to hunt for bow hunters and stuff like that, because it is a safe way to hunt, and it does reduce the population. Maybe not highly reduce it, but it does reduce it, and it's a start. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've covered a lot of ground
Can I
here.
ask a quick question?
Sure.
Sorry. I really want to thank the council, everybody, for letting us speak. But my last question is, once this gets publicized that bow hunting is allowed, how do you prevent people from just showing up in these cars and just going out? Pilot program, what comes next, rifles?
Well, there's no doubt that enforcement would be an issue that would need to be addressed.
I think we need to go back to the drawing.
Shotgun hunting's already allowed.
Yeah, you
I don't think it's so.
I'm part of the committee. We spent a lot of time going through this stuff, trying to make sure that everybody would be safe. And bow hunting, I've bow hunted since I was 14 years old. Never, the farthest you ever shoot a bow, arrow in the woods, is 30 yards, tops. Our bow, even with a crossbow. Crossbow, yeah, it can go quite a distance. But when I'm sitting here like this, it's physics. I'm here. I've got 4 feet to the ground. That arrow's gonna go out level. It's gonna hit the ground before it's 50 yards out. It's physics. You can't argue that. Okay, if I'm like this, that's a different story, right? It's like football, like a quarterback. He throws a line drive, it only goes so far. He throws a long bomb, it's up in the air. No hunter does this. No hunter's walking around with their bow, or even gun on, like this. It's down, muzzle down, always.
Not always followed though.
Not
Not everybody
it
follow
is.
the rule. Yeah, that's just a lot. I've seen people that have not followed that rule.
Well, that's the proper
True.
training.
So, but
That is the
so
proper
what-
training.
So part of this is, part of what we're doing as a committee is we want to talk to everybody who's going to be coming and make sure that these people, that's that safety piece. Make sure everybody who gets issued a permit, not only can they shoot things correctly, shoot the bow accurately, is that they're also, you're not some numbskull going out there.
And what are your qualifications to decide on that?
You have to talk to the person. You have to kind of understand.
But if you want to control the deer population in a 5R, so why don't you issue more 5R tags?
There is an abundance of 5R tags that don't get filled.
They give out 2 doe permits already in 5R.
Yeah,
They can't give out
so
anymore. Which emphasizes the
When
problem.
you ask for tags, you tell them that you want it in 5R. And I've asked for 5R for 5 years in a row, and gotten with no question at all. I don't know the numbers, but if you go to the DEC site, they'll show you how many tags are issued for each region, and then how many are filled. And hardly any are filled because there isn't any real areas that are open. Okay,
A lot of the farms around here are family farms. You know, we've heard from a bunch of people already, but the families that are hunters don't want other people coming in because they don't know me. You know, I can come knock on somebody's door. They don't know me. They don't want me coming there because they don't know if I'm that guy running around. Where's the deer at? Where's the deer at? That's not what this is about.
Should make the point that all these stands are basically.
Yeah, so, he made a point about, going, when I go hunting, I don't wanna be around people. I'm not gonna set my stuff up next to a trail. I'm gonna find the thickest part that I can get away from people where I have an opportunity to be isolated and, away from the trail, because I don't want to see you guys. If you're out there, I don't want to see you. I don't want you to see me because I don't want to scare you. Okay? When I first moved up to Albany area, I hunted the Pine Bush Preserve. And I was sitting in a Pine Bush Preserve, and a kid and his mom and dad come walking by, and it scared the crap out of me. I packed my stuff up and I left because I did not want to have to talk to that kid and kind of explain to him what I was doing, because I didn't know them. They don't know me. Now, that's why, we're trying to stay as far away from the trails as possible and do this in a very, very humane, incredibly safe way.
Close the park
Assuming that everybody's gonna do that, I mean,
So
it'd be
that's,
great if
so,
you could guarantee
so
it,
that's,
but-
so that, like I said, that's part of the safety thing that we're gonna do. And, if you're a good hunter, good outdoorsman, and you see another permit guy out there doing something wrong, what do you think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna rip him apart. I'm gonna take him to public safety. I'll take him to the DEC. I'll turn.
There are law breakers.
Yeah, I know.
There are law breakers.
I know, and you guys.
This discussion isn't about hunting, it's about deer control. And there are
part of the
other
control,
things we
part
can
of
do.
part of the control is part of the control is us, everybody in that.
You're responsible, but what about guys that are gonna go out there? What about people that aren't?
So those are the ones that aren't involved. They're not gonna have.
And it's gonna put egg on your face.
All right, please, you have another speaker.
Hi, my name is Connie Danbra. I live at 370 Riverview Road down in Bishop Ferry. I originally wasn't going to get up and say anything, but I feel compelled now to maybe describe what we're all going through that are opposed to this. It's not because the deer are pretty. First of all, if there's deer getting hit on the side of the road, get off your damn cell phone and drive the speed limit. And I know this because part-time I live in Florida on a federal wildlife preserve where the endangered key deer live. We reduced the speed limit to 30. Yeah, you don't always follow it, but for the most part people do, and deer aren't getting hit. As far as deer eating your gardens, there's plenty of vegetation that deer do not like. You can also, vegetables, plant a perimeter of marigolds around all your vegetable gardens. It works.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does. I can prove it.
You should come to my house.
Well, your house is different. They must like you a lot. But one of the concerns about hunting and the lottery, and I mean, I've heard, these gentlemen that are hunter educators and biologists and what have you. I mean, there's some good people here, and there's some good people that hunt, but there's also the other side, and once burned, twice shy. I can't tell you how many years out of the 25 years I've lived in Bishop Ferry that we've had to call 911, and that's just during duck hunting season. My house has gotten hit. I walk my daughter down my driveway and we hear kapow, and there's buckshot at our feet. December, and some of the guilty parties are in this room tonight, maybe you'll remember. 1 December, I called because there were a lot of gunshots, and I'm hearing bullets ricochet. Now, I know we're not talking about arrows, but the point is, people were illegally hunting rabbits down in Bishop Ferry, and they weren't staying in the preserve. They were shooting next to my neighbor's house, which caused the bullets to ricochet, and luckily, the state trooper that did come out heard it, and I went down fast. He pushed me right down to the ground, and he went out and investigated. We also found out that there were the people that were illegally duck hunting were keeping scanners with them. So they'd hear on their scanner, go down to Ferry Drive, somebody's reporting people shooting outside the preserve, and they'd go up to the other end to the power dam and take off. And then finally the cops got wise to that. Things have been calm in that respect, but the problem is it needs to be policed. All these people on the committee, every single one of these people that you allowed to ball hunt, please. Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, town board, residents. First off, thanks for the opportunity to come up and talk. My name is James Slow. I live at 20 Meridian Lane, and yes, I know somebody up there on the town board pretty well. A couple of quick points. One, I support the program. Two, I have zero intentions to participate in it because I have lands and access in other places. Although the points that have been raised earlier, access is incredibly difficult. Some things we've spent a lot of time tonight talking about deer management, and the numbers and the statistics. But I do recall one of the bullet points and one of the goals of the program was shared access. And I want to piggyback on one of the topics that was brought up a few minutes ago by one of the hunter safety gentlemen, and that's the Robinson Pittman Act. And I think there was maybe one other person in the group tonight that was familiar with it. So let me spend a little time talking about it. This legislation was enacted in 1937. It basically equates to a conservation fund. Since then, it's generated $15 billion with a B dollars in funding for various environmental causes, that habitat management, wildlife management, educational courses. It goes back to the states where it's disseminated even further. A lot of times when governments get this money, I have no idea where it came from. Well, guess where it came from? It came from the sportsman community. Last year, the Robinson Pittman Act generated $1 billion in revenue. So, I beg your pardon?
How much did Clifton Park make that?
Well, I can't tell you that, but there's actually something called the Sportsman's Alliance. Go ahead and look that up on your computer. It will distill it down to, by congressional district, how much money came back to Paul Tonko's congressional district, which is what we reside in currently, unfortunately. So, but I'm talking about the economic impact, that sportsmen have on the community. And this should be, we're talking about deer management, but this should be an issue of shared access. We pay. And the last time I checked, and somebody please educate me, is there a tax that is applicable to hiking shoes, dog leashes, backpacks? I think you get my point. This should be, as much as it is about deer management, it should be about equal access. I do share some of the concerns from the property owners. I get that. I would submit to you that you now have 25 new folks who are quasi-law enforcement. They're going to be out there advocating for doing it the right way. And you know what? There's good and bad apples in everything that happens out in this world. People break rules in hunting. They break rules in politics. They break rules at work every day. You're going to have 25 people now out there that are going to be advocating to do it the right way, not trespassing. And if you don't want us walking on your land, you won't do it. And you're going to know who these people are. Versus now, it's some random stranger. You have no ability, no accountability. Now, the town will know who these 25 people are. I would submit to you, you're going to have better control and more orderly hunting, so to speak. So I definitely support the program, and I'd like to, like I said, consider the economic impact that sportsmen bring to the town and the state and the country. Thank you.
In Paul Tonko's congressional district, there was $126 million in 2020.
Wow.
Wow.
It was a tenth of the total, is that right?
All right. Well, at this point, we've You want to ask me a question? Oh, sure. I've asked you a lot of questions tonight, Joe. You can ask me a question. Sure.
Yes, it's important that complaints that you had of hunters on private property that's already existing. Yeah. Let's say the last year.
Oh, we,
Other than the, you don't answer complaints.
well, we do get complaints from time to time. Was that?
Yeah, I think email.
People get hundred on private property. That's bad.
Yeah, and we did have one complaint about a death pile, what was that, a year ago? In the Bishopberry Preserve.
Yeah, I have the security report for 2019, 2020. There have been, let's see, there was no appearance tickets issued in 2019. There was 6 complaints in 2020, and 2 complaints where no tickets were issued in the Dwaskill. That's what I got from our town security.
What, hunters on those properties?
Or any complaints about hunting in those parks.
Hunting in the parks.
Sometimes people stop complaining when it falls on deaf ears.
That's right. All right, well, we've heard a lot of good information from people on both sides of the issue tonight. I want to thank everybody oh, yes, sure. We've heard some good information. So far, this has been the only public meeting on this issue. So if you do have follow-up questions, you can certainly direct those to town clerk.
What's the next?
Mrs. Brobston, and she'll, or directly to the town board, and we'll answer your questions best we can. Yeah. Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. My name is Everett Noakes, 28 Texas 154. So I know a lot of you guys in here know me, and I know a lot of you. I usually like to speak last, so I can gauge what everybody's speaking and saying. I want to promise one thing with my 4 minutes and what have you left. I agree with a portion of what everybody in this room has said tonight. But what I'm going to say now, none of you are going to 100% agree with. And that's why we live in America, because we can say that. So while I was outside, because I wasn't going to stand there for over an hour, I saw this flyer in the hallway. It says, thinking about the next generation's health. So when we look at this proposal here, there's goods and bad, ups and downs to every program out there. Encourages safe hunting, reduces accidents, and then as many people have said, it can interfere with local residents and whatnot. But I really think that the only way that we're going to be able to pass anything, as we've seen in the past few months, there's been some division in the town, pretty much everywhere. We're gifted to live in this town because the town supports us a lot, unlike the city. So I think, getting back to my point, the only way that we're going to successfully pass something, because anybody could vote on anything, is that however the vote comes out, it's in a few weeks, I think, whoever was saying that before. If it's 3-2, 2-3, 4-1, who cares, we'd like to see a 5-5, everybody voting for yes or no. We'd like to see people come to the middle. The people that like this, the people that don't like this, I could say I'm 1,000% for hunting. I've been hunting for over 5 years. I don't particularly have the patience to bow hunt, but I prefer rifle shotgun. But I think that the programming concept is a great idea. I think that there's a lot that it can support us with, but I think that the concerns of the people, because the people up here, everybody here is great, all of our representatives, but they're here to support us. So they're not in charge of you, we're in charge of them. And that's coming from somebody who would like to see myself in an elected position in a few years. So.
Yeah, so remember that.
Yeah,
I might come back and remind you.
I'm speaking to you guys. So I think that the only way that we're gonna be able to pass this successfully with a lot of people for it in the end proposal is that if we have a committee divided upon people that are somewhat for this, somewhat against this, so that we can come to a consensus in the middle, because we can see that, in my opinion at least, the country's not going in a good direction, and it never really is when it's only one group of people leading it. So if we could have a divided committee on this, or committee, then, and divided in a good way where we can have an expression of opinions from across the board and across the room here, because it's not that side of the room and this side of the room. The room's all together, and there's people that support and against this in each different chair, and nobody agrees fully with each other. So I think that if we can form a committee where everybody's on the same page in the position of moving forward, maybe not how it is now, how it's proposed now, or what have you, but in a way that we can come together and all benefit from a pilot program, and we can sort of all share our ideas so that the program has a moderate sense to it, so that everybody's concerns are addressed, whether concerns could be good or bad, whether they want something or they don't want something. If everybody could come to the middle on a committee to have this, as with any issue in the town, then I think that that would be the most beneficial thing. If I have a little time left, okay. The town, I believe we're in our 194th year. This is by far, and it's not my opinion, it's a fact, that I may be going a little far with that we are the best town in the county. And we really are I see someone. But it's because we work together, we come to the middle. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to keep moving forward, whether you're talking about this piece, this proposal, or anything else in the town. That's the only way that we're going to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Can somebody please tell us?
So, the possible next steps, it could be on any future town board agenda for a vote. The next meeting would be in a couple of weeks, so you can watch the agendas on the cliftonpark.org for what will be on the next town board agenda.
And I have several emails that came in that I'd like to read to you as well. Because they requested to be read. My name is Bill, and I'm going to spell his last name, C-I-E-J-K-A, and I live in Pitman Park. I would like to express my strong support for the proposed deer management plan. While I don't hunt, I believe this is a very safe plan for the town, its residents, and sportsmen and women. Promoting greater utilization of the town resources is all the town residents and not just a select few, is both inclusive and a great idea. Thank you for your time and consideration. And then from Frank Berlin. From my point of view, I think we are facing a potential problem and we have to come up with some type of solution. The deer management people are offering a solution. And it's up to the board or the town what they want to do. I know down in Watchung, they have a problem, which is normal. Some people want to eliminate the deer and some people don't want to do anything. So because we live in a democracy, we need to talk about it and come up with a solution. I have witnessed what happens if you don't do anything. So I share that from my point of view with the over-browsing and the deer wasting disease and ticks and crops, etc. Just my point of view, and you can just pass it on to anyone. I know you guys work hard, and I wish to you all the best. Public statement is we are at a critical juncture as civilization, wildlife interconnect. The balance of nature becomes disturbed. We can see it in deer, Canadian geese, beavers, mice, with the decrease in predators such as foxes, hawks, and owls, leading to Lyme disease in humans. Working collectively, making wise decisions to live in balance with our natural world is our goal. Then I have one from Laurie Dittmer. I want to make sure you knew I was in support of this endeavor. While I comprehend the drawbacks to the parks, basically having restricted access for 3 weeks in the fall, It is a short window for limited bow hunters. It is providing them with healthy meat, protein, and other uses of deer carcasses. For the deer, it reduces their numbers to lessen starvation, which is the reality in the winter, injury and illness. For the community, it reduces landscaping damage and vehicle damage along with potential passenger injury. I also acknowledge that as we build and maintain properties in Clifton Park, we are limiting the wildlife's areas. However, each citizen of Clifton Park chose to live on previous deer grazing land. Blaming new construction is not the answer. Deer overpopulation is here, and the reality is it must be dealt with. GONCON, G-O-N-E-C-O-N, deer birth control is expensive and temporary. According to the DEC, it is up $1,000 per deer, while only effective for 2 to 4 years. And to be administered, we would still need people in the park shooting darts to tranquilize the deer, to tag them and dose the does. While bow hunting is not the perfect solution, I believe it is the best one to attempt at this time. I recommend approving the bow hunting proposal for the 2022 season, then assessing before making it a permanent law. And then from Betsy Cotton, I still have several reservations regarding bow hunting. I do not approve of the killing of any of the deer in this area, since they are accustomed to humans, and that makes it certainly not a very sporting activity. Not to mention a great number of humans do enjoy watching the deer. That being said, I appreciate that the town is making an effort to guarantee that those who are allowed to hunt have proper skills and equipment. I have to wonder how that will be policed on site. In that, alternate people and less than adequate equipment might be used. Additionally, I still think allowing hunting on property that is typically used as recreational land for the community may be an accident waiting to happen. If the number of deer traffic accidents has increased in numbers from the past years, I think that is a very good indicator that we have allowed too much building to happen in this community. Just driving through Clifton Park is evident of that. One suggestion that my neighbor has made, at least for our road, is that the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit is never enforced. I doubt if 1 in 10 people are going that slowly, and if they did, some accidents could be eliminated. Also, I see no caution deer signs in use, though there are caution signs for geese and turtles everywhere. I would definitely support no hunting be allowed in any part of southern Saratoga County if that were possible. It is simply too populated. And then the last one is from Corey McKinney. I think this is a great idea and great way to control the population. The guidelines already in place seem more than sufficient for safety. I would also like to clear it up for those who don't know, hunting is already allowed in Clifton Park as long as you own or have permission to hunt the land. This just makes it temporarily more available and is for bow owning.
The Open Space Trails Riverfront Committee had a multi-page assessment. Did you get a copy of that? No. All right, well, we'll make sure that we get that too. I know they sent it to the board. Maybe they didn't copy you on it, but I know they'll want that as part of the record as well. All right, well, very good. So, like I said, the next meeting's the 15th. So that would be the earliest that the resolution could be on the agenda to have a vote on this topic. Like I said, this is the first public meeting of any type on this topic. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming out and giving us your opinions and views on this matter.
Will there be any public hearings on that?
What was that?
Will there be any further public hearings?
There's nothing planned at this point. Okay. So thank you very much. No, this is August is definitely a difficult time. No, August is a difficult time. So, Yeah, we have a meeting to.
Meeting's not over with yet. Please step outside. Thank you. Take care. Thank you. A resolution scheduling a public hearing to amend the town code regarding parks and title change of certain departments of the town of Park, whereas Supervisor Barrett met with the building and planning department staff to discuss the redistribution of responsibilities after the retirement of Steve Myers as director of building and zoning, and recommends changes in titles listed in table 1 to reflect these amendments. And whereas the supervisor recommends the following reorganization of the building and development of First table 1, consolidate land use efficiency, service.
This is my department and I came here. Keep going. Sorry, I want to hear, sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Teresa.
Whereas the supervisor recommends the following reorganization of the building and development and planning departments per table 1 to consolidate land use functions into efficiently service residents, developers, and contractors regarding land use applications within the town. Whereas Supervisor Garrett also recommends a change in the title and description of the Parks and Recreation Department, also listed in table 1. The current title for Planning Department is proposed for Planning and Zoning Department. Current title for Director of Building and Zoning is proposed Director of Building and Development. Current title for Director of Planning is proposed for Director of Planning and Zoning. Current title for Department of Parks and Recreation and Community Affairs, proposed to Department of Parks and Recreation. Current title for the Director of Parks, Recreation and Community Affairs, proposed would be the Director of Parks and Recreation. Current title for the Stormwater Management Technician would be proposed to Stormwater Management Officer. Whereas the town board wishes to schedule a public hearing to solicit the views and input from the community on the proposal. Now therefore be it resolved that a public hearing will be held on August 15, 2022 at 7:05 p.m. on a proposal to adjust titles per the attached draft legislation, and be it further resolved that the town clerk is directed to publish appropriate notice of same. A resolution authorizing the appointment of individuals within departments of the town of Clifton Park, whereas openings exist in multiple departments within the town, and whereas the supervisor has recommended the following changes, promotions, and appointments within the town as listed in table 1. Wade Schoenborn with the Department of Building and Development position, Director of Building and Development, grade 12, step 9, year 1, rate at $60.56 an hour. Scott Reese, Planning Department Zoning Administrator, Stormwater Management Officer, and Floodplain Administrator, grade 10, step 6, year 3, $46.30 an hour. Raina Minato, Town Clerk, Deputy Town Clerk, grade 6, step 6, $32.26 an hour. Rodney Guzowski, Public Safety, part-time armed court officer, grade 6, step 1, $26.50 an hour. Destiny Bipap, highway mechanics helper, grade 5, step 1, $24.83 an hour. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board authorizes the title change of the Director of Building and Zoning to the Director of Building and Development, and be it further resolved that the town board authorizes the promotion of Wade Schoenborn as Director of Building and Development, grade 12, step 9, year 1, effective August 8, 2022, and be it further resolved that the town board authorizes the promotion of Scott Reese as Zoning Administrator, Stormwater Management Officer, and Floodplain Administrator, grade 10, step 6, year 3, effective August 8, 2022, and be it further resolved that the town board accepts the appointment of Raina Minato as Deputy Town Clerk at grade 6, step 6, based on the recommendations of the town clerk, effective immediately, and be it further resolved that the town board appoints Rodney Mordekowski. Thank you. As part-time armed court officer, grade 6, step 1, to work on an as-needed basis effective immediately, and be it further resolved that the town board appoints Destiny Garland as mechanics helper in the highway department, grade 5, grade step 1, based on the recommendations of the highway superintendent effective August 16, 2022, to be further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to make the following budgetary transfers. A resolution appointing provisionally Michael Warner to the position of Director of Parks, Recreation, and Human Services. Whereas an opening exists for a Director of Parks, Recreation, and Human Services in the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs, and whereas the members of the town board have interviewed all the applications for the position, and whereas after interviewing Michael Warner to Councilwoman Linda Wallowwood, town board co-liaison to the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs, recommends that Mr. Warner to the town board of the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Human Services position in the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs. Therefore, be it resolved that Michael Warner, 33 Pinehurst Drive, Clifton Park, is hereby appointed provisionally as Director of Parks, Recreation, and Human Services for the town of Clifton Park at grade 10, step 1, year 1, to be paid $40.73 an hour, equivalent to the $74,129 as indicated in the job posting, effective August 8, 2022, and be it further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to transfer $29,900 from General Fund Parks and Recreation M. Kramer to General Fund Parks and Recreation M. Warner. A resolution extending the contract for town buildings cleanings and maintenance agreement with WJS Ultimate Cleaning and Floors for said services. Whereas on November 16, 2021, the town opened bids for janitorial services, and the lowest bid was received from our current contractor, WJS Ultimate Cleaning and Floors LLC, 323 Linden Street, Schenectady, New York, in an amount not to exceed $62,831.79 for cleanings. Now therefore be it resolved that the town and WJS Ultimate Cleanings and Floors extend the agreement to provide janitorial services for town-owned buildings per the attached breakdown by building in an amount not to exceed $62,831.79 for cleanings beginning August 1st, 2022 until July 31st, 2023, to be paid as follows. The total amount, it'll be the town hall, public safety building, sewer building, buildings and grounds department, and building, Rooms Tavern, Highway Department, Locust Lane Clubhouse, Locust Lane Maintenance Building, Clifton Park Senior Center and Transfer Station, with a total of $62,831.79 annually. And be it further resolved that the charges for 2023 be included in the 2023 budget process. And be it further resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign the attached contract amendment number 2 for cleaning services for the town-owned facilities as listed. A resolution awarding a contract for parking lot sealing and striping at the Clifton Common, whereas the Director of Buildings, Parks and Recreation, Dan Clemens, advertised for sealed bids for the pavement sealing and striping located at the Clifton Common, and whereas sealed bids were opened on July 20th, 2022, and whereas Louisi Asphalt Services, 70 Triboli Street, Albany, New York, was the lowest bidder in an amount not to exceed $36,475 for the sealing and striping. And whereas the Director of Buildings, Parks and Recreation recommends awarding the bid to Louisi Asphalt Services as most responsive bidder, and therefore be it resolved that the comptroller is authorized to transfer $36,475 from committed fund balance to the general fund Clifton Common equipment. And be it further resolved that the supervisor is authorized to accept a quote from Louisi Asphalt Services in an amount not to exceed $36,475 for sealing and striping the parking lots at the Clifton Common.
No, there's one more. Residents to hold a party.
Oh, yes.
We don't wanna rain on their parade.
A resolution authorizing the residents of the cul-de-sac of the Glenwood Drive in the Country Knolls subdivision to conduct a block party on August 20th, 2022. Whereas the residents of the Country Knolls subdivision plan to conduct a block party within the super subdivision on August 20th, 2022 from 12 PM to 10 PM, and to have requested permission to use the cul-de-sac of Glenwood Drive to Morningside Drive for the party activities. Now therefore be it resolved, the town highway superintendent recommends that the request be approved for the use of the portion of Glenwood Drive, August 20th, 2022 from 12 PM to 10 PM to be used for party activities, so long as those activities do not block off the streets and allow emergency vehicles access to the street if needed. It be it further resolved that the residents shall be responsible for all cleanup activities on town property or on the street right of way resulting from the social activity. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the applicable fire departments, the ambulance force, the sheriff's department, and the state police, informing those organizations of the events.
Okay, that'll do it. Any questions on the resolutions? Okay. Teresa, if you could read the headings and we'll consider each resolution individually.
Resolution number 202 of 2022, a resolution scheduling a public hearing to amend the town code regarding department and job title changes of certain departments in the town of Clifton Park.
Tom? Comments on this?
Just that there were a lot, we had two changes in two departments. Mila Kramer retired from Parks and Recreation, and Steve Myers is due to retire from the Department of Building and Development. It's my understanding that the board would like to split some of the job duties that Steve Myers has been doing as far as zoning administration, zoning officer. I'm in touch, working now with the Saratoga County Human Resources Department to do that relative to the established job descriptions for those two positions. There is also a proposed title change for the planning department, and some of the other changes that are in here. We felt it was more efficient to consolidate them all and show the board all the changes that are proposed, and show the public all the changes that are proposed at the same time. By the time of the 15th, we should have those job descriptions back from the county HR, and we can have be able to flesh that out more fully in the public in the public hearing. It's kind of a challenging task, which may take a couple of steps to accomplish, because these titles and these positions are mentioned numerous times in the various sections of the code that these titles are referred to. So in order to not have obsolete references in the code, we're gonna, we're going through and trying to clean all those up. So those are just the chapters and code sections over there on the right of this table that you see there. Those titles are mentioned at various points in the code in terms of responsibilities, powers, and duties.
Okay, very good. All right, so this will go in the public hearing. Teresa?
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard? Yes. Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walloway?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 203 of 2022, a resolution authorizing the appointment of individuals within departments for the town of Clifton Park.
So due to retirements and the need for additional personnel, we have new designation of duties for current team members, we have new hires, and we also have transfers within departments. So quite a few changes within this resolution, and new job titles, positions for a few folks. First up, Steve Myers has submitted his retirement letter, and Wade Schoenborn is recommended to be the Director of Building and Development. Wade has a long career with the town, and I know I remember when I started here in 2000, he and Dan Clemens were both members of the Buildings and Grounds Department and now leaders within our organization. So it's good to see our continuous promotion from within. But Wade is definitely ready for this very important responsibility, running the department that's had a lot of change in recent years due to retirements. So we have new people that have come on board, and he would need to backfill his position as well as hire a new person for the department. So he'll continue to be busy with personnel changes within the Building and Development Department. Scott Reese would accept the duties of zoning administrator, stormwater management officer, and along with that is the floodplain administrator. Scott is our stormwater technician, so he does work in the stormwater area each and every day. The zoning administrator part of that, of those duties, is the one that will be new to Scott, although he does have the experience, background, qualifications to do the job. Two weeks ago at our last meeting, we approved Chris Pagnello moving from the clerk's office to the payroll position and the controller's office. That opened a spot in the clerk's office, obviously, and Rena Manafo would be transferring from the highway department to the town clerk department. Rodney Gwizdowski, we need another part-time armed court officer. Rodney recently retired as a deputy sheriff, and he was in that position for 33 years. And Dan Destiny will be filling the spot open through the retirement of Nick Cook, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about Destiny?
Yeah, Destiny, just wanted to apologize. He was here earlier today, but he had to head home. He and his wife just had a newborn, so they're dealing with that new change in their life. We sat him down and had a nice conversation with our head mechanic. Dean Charbonneau was very impressed with his knowledge and his experience, and Dean likes to throw some curveballs at him that no one ever understands, and if he can answer them, then they know what they're talking about, which he did. So we were very happy to see that. So we're very happy to bring him onto our team.
So this is so that's the last of the positions that are listed here, and it continues the changes from some of the changes we instituted at the last meeting. So again, we have our team continues to evolve and develop and take on additional responsibility as opportunities become available to them. And of course, that's always good to see. And again, the promotion from within is, I think, very positive for morale and helps build a high-performing organization. I listed them all out. Any other comments, questions? All right, I think that's it. Okay, Teresa.
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 204, 2022, a resolution appointing provisionally Michael Warner to the position of Director of Parks, Recreation, and Human Services.
So moved. Second.
So, Ms. Wallowitz, would you
Yes,
like to
I
talk about this resolution? Resolution.
All right, it's late.
Yeah. Myla Kramer recently retired as director of the department, but go ahead.
We had 7 excellent candidates for the position. And after 2 interviews and much discussion, we were united in our decision that Mike Warner was the perfect choice for the Director of Parks and Recreation. His expertise, his background, and experiences supported our decision. Mike, unfortunately, can't be with us tonight because he's fortunately on a college tour with his eldest daughter, starting in South Carolina and heading towards Florida, quite an adventure, but he will be here on his start date a week from today and we're looking forward to working with him. We know that this is a great opportunity for this, our busiest department, and Mike will do a great job. We're very confident in this resolution. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, Mike has incredible background and has either coordinated, supervised, or created a number of community programs through his time with the U.S. Marshal's Office. He's retired from there, and will be kind of a second career for him. But I think based on his what we know of him as an employee at the transfer station for a short amount of time now, he certainly separated himself there with regard to the way he handles himself and has a very high regard for the residents of Clifton Park, and that comes through. And and I'm sure other board members hear often about the great experience they have dealing with Mike at the transfer station. So this will be, like I said, a second career for Mike, and based on his background, qualifications, and attitude, I think he will jump into this position and just do a tremendous job.
He will. I do have a question. So with Ms. Wolowitz's resolution, we're hiring Mike for Director of Parks, Recreation, and Human Services. But with the first resolution for the public hearing, it did say the current title was Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs. Are they synonymous, or what's the discrepancy?
I think I would like to talk with I am talking with the Saratoga County Department of Human Resources about this title as well. And it's not ready for the board's consideration. I think Linda and I spoke briefly about it Friday morning as well. If you review the human services element of the existing job description, I don't know how far back it goes, probably to the 70s. There are things, there are elements of that job description that office doesn't do.
I noticed.
So I would like to propose in a future meeting that some of those tasks in the human services element, the human services side of it, maybe be looked at closely by the board. Not changing, I wouldn't propose changing anything that the office does. I would just consider eliminating the things on that description that it hasn't done since I've been here.
There were some things in the job description that I have had on file since I've been here as co-liaison to Parks and Rec with the human services part of it. And there were some things in that job description that the previous director has never done. I was actually quite surprised to see some.
Right. So some of these moves, as we all well know, happen pretty quickly. Some of these two changes at the top levels, and just haven't had time to catch up and get a proper proposal for the board to consider, and see what the county HR department wants to do and how they want to do it, what their process is. So we're playing a little bit of catch up, but that's the difference.
Is there any issue with the fact that the job posting was with the human services thing?
I don't think there's any legal issue. I don't think there's any legal issue. I think everybody who interviewed for that job works here and knows what the job does and what it never did.
There's been some conversations among some of the applicants.
Yeah, a couple of them
about the title change.
Well,
the job description.
Yeah, a couple of them asked me about it, and I just told them exactly what I just told you. I wouldn't consider adding new responsibilities down there that aren't there. Just whenever some of these changes take place, since I've been here, I've always tried to look at a comprehensive update, you know, and remove obsolete references.
Yeah, no, I agree that there were some things that are obsolete and need to be changed. It's just that when the order that it was changed kind of made it.
Yeah, this is the public, the first resolution simply schedules a public hearing.
Right. I'm just saying that when the resolutions went out, or when the agenda went out last week, some of the folks were reading it and thinking, well, why is this being changed now? And had questions, and good questions about why we were changing things after all the interviews and everything. And I do have Linda Wallet provided me with the new description proposed that we'll be discussing in the public hearing, and it does fit.
And that's a
the
draft.
job.
That's a draft, by the way.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's still order.
And it does fit the actual job
Sure.
responsibilities better than the one that I have been looking at for years. So
The timing,
yeah,
the timing was off.
Yeah, I just
That's all,
wanted to
that's all.
clarify.
Just a matter of, there's a lot
Yeah.
of moving parts going on right now at the same time. We're trying, I know the office is busy, and my office is trying to catch up.
Yeah, understood. I just wanted to make sure that the folks were aware, that the other applicants were aware that this was, you know, what was involved in the job description change and why the decision was made what it was, and that what we're proposing is really closer to what the
Right.
previous director has been doing.
Right, it was just a proposal from staff, that's all that was.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty.
I was just gonna,
Oh, yes.
yeah, I was just gonna briefly comment. First off, I absolutely concur with your assessment, Councilman Waller and Supervisor. I think Mike is the right person for the job. I would just comment on the interview process itself. Obviously, I think we all knew all 7 of the candidates from being here, but when you do the interview process, you kind of look at them with different lens. You look at resumes. You know, you ask them some probing questions about the role, and I was completely impressed with each and every candidate. I found them to be all very qualified for this position, each with a unique set of skills that I think would have added value to the position. I think each and every one of them could have done this role, and you know, I just think we have really high caliber pool of individuals to select from. I do think Mike is the right person. I just want to comment on the other candidates. I was very impressed looking at each and every resume and asking them questions on their vision for the Parks and Rec department.
Very good.
Councilwoman Flood? Yes. Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walaway?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 205 of 2022, a resolution extending the contract for town buildings, cleaning and maintenance agreement with WJS Ultimate Cleaning and Floors for said services.
Supervisor, I'd like to table this resolution to reexamine tasks, schedules, and discuss alternate bids. This is in consideration of employee and citizen comments
My second.
regarding service.
Yeah, I know, somebody Teresa brought up some items, and Dan was going to talk to the company about that as well.
Just, is there any, when does it expire, or is there any gap in service?
What's you're on a current 6-month extension, right? Dan?
Yeah. The extension ends, yesterday. So, yeah, I guess there could be a gap in service. I do know that's gonna terminate it, but I don't know legally if that will make a gap in service. If you can just continue on working out as prior, I'm not sure.
Well, if it'll extend it for a period, an additional interim period of time, then, you know, because of these circumstances, I don't see why we wouldn't do that. Mark, do you agree?
Yeah.
But the question is going to be which pricing.
Should we do some sort of amendment to extend it to the next town board meeting or something?
If it was, what about alternate bids then?
I didn't see the, well, the bid sheet is in here, I believe. I didn't talk to him, and I don't know what his circumstances are, and I didn't anticipate this.
Well, you don't have the bids, the bid results, right, from the last bid on you.
Yeah, they're.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're included in
Yeah,
the
they're in
resolution.
there.
Oh, all right, well, there you
I
go.
thought they were in the back.
Who's this? Yeah. There you go.
But, you know, if you wanna, you know, how are these prices broken down, Dan? Are these annual?
Yes. Per building, annual.
Well, I don't have a great solution, except to, propose, you know, that the board amend the resolution and extend the contract for a month and, at least get the service in place for the month of August while you consider other options. I wish I had known this was a concern. I would have had a better answer for you.
We live for surprise you.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to extend the current contract through September, through at least September 6th. That's when our,
Do we have to address the
meetings,
first
so,
motion, which was seconded? Table, Linda made a motion to table.
But, you know, motion to table.
well, there's no discussion on a motion to table, so we can vote on the motion to table, and, so go ahead, Teresa.
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard? Yes. Councilman Morelli?
Motion to table.
I'm trying to figure out, we try to table it, then we can't amend it, right? Or would we put in a new motion?
Well, you're not gonna amend the motion to table. It either gets tabled or it don't. But we need to extend the contract, so it really doesn't matter.
Okay. Yes.
Councilwoman Ballwood?
That was so funny.
Supervisor?
Yes. I'll entertain a motion to extend the contract through, I think our first meeting in September is what, 6th?
No, it's gonna be the week after. Is it later?
No, it's gonna be Tuesday.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
I think it's the 6th, right? Let's make sure,
To the first meeting in September.
6th, right?
Yes.
Yeah. To extend the contract at the pricing that you see in the resolution through the 6th. Is there a second? Well, I said entertain a motion,
Wait, I
so
have
do
a
you want to
question.
move it?
No, you amend the pricing. I think we want to amend,
We're extending the
Yeah.
contract based on these terms, yeah.
yes, okay.
Just through September
Yes,
6th.
okay.
That's all we're
Thank you.
doing.
All right.
I will make that motion.
I'll second. Okay, Teresa?
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ballwood?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 206 of 2022, a resolution awarding a contract for parking lot sealing and striping at the Clifton Commons.
Second? Dan?
Yeah, so this is for the entire Clifton Commons from front to back. I think it was 2018, the last time it was done completely. So this will reseal every parking lot. We'll have to break it down and coordinate the leads and activities to get it done. And then all new parking spaces, lines, arrows, crosswalks, anything that's in the park will also be repainted for this job.
All right, definitely needed. Well, two of the bids were very close. One was much higher, so we did get 3 bids anyway. All right, discussion. Teresa?
Councilwoman Flood? Yes. Councilwoman Standard? Yes. Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz? Yes. Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 207 of 2022, a resolution authorizing the residents of the cul-de-sac of Glenwood Drive in the Country Knolls subdivision to conduct a block party on August 20th, 2022.
Second.
Teresa?
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard? Yes. Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz? Yes. Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, any other business to come before the board? Okay. We have public privilege. Would you like to speak tonight? I know you already did on the other, but in this segment of the show, you can speak on any matter.
Oh, on anything?
Yeah, on any matter.
Oh, all right, because I just want to.
You will have to come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
Again?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a replay that way,
All right, I don't expect you to remember my name.
but as long as you're here.
My name is Rosemary Romero, and I live at 28 Cedar Drive. And I know there was a public hearing on this already. And I know it's already been decided, and I know your opinion on it.
You do?
And I do, it's about marijuana cafes.
Oh,
And
that.
I know
No.
that's got.
Well, that's a long way from deer
I know. People should, you know, anyway, no, all I just wanted to say was, I'm a big fan, but I think you're wrong.
Sure.
I think you're completely wrong.
Sure.
And I'm just curious, because I didn't follow this closely enough, but what was everyone's opinion on that, or how would you have voted on that? Would you be for cafes?
Well, we did vote.
And you're
We
all
voted
against
on,
it?
well, there were two decisions that the boards had to make across the state. One was to allow, either opt in or out on allowing dispensaries, and then opt in or out on the pot cafes.
Right, it gets revisited after a year.
No, not necessarily.
Oh.
Yeah, so we did vote it unanimously to opt out of both.
Okay, I still love you.
But, the town boards in the future can change that, certainly. There's no time limit on when it would be, that it needs to be reviewed again per the current stipulations anyway, unless the state changes that. But, it certainly could be looked at any time.
Well, part of it is, capitalism, and all through new business, and it's one of the things I like about living here. You see one business close and then another one opens in the same spot immediately. I used to live in Amsterdam, New York, and when a business closed, it stayed. We had a whole mall that had to be turned into office buildings. So it's something I like about being here. So, okay, when you ever do the public meeting, I'll do that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. This was very interesting. I've noticed something. You all agree more than disagree. That's good to see.
Well, so it depends on the night.
Very true.
Linda?
Motion to adjourn.
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz? Yes. Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, thank you.
No. I know.